Russia must pay for the damage caused to Ukraine by the war. In The Hague, a convention was adopted to establish an international commission for compensation of losses. Ukraine, Moldova, and the Netherlands were the first to sign it. Before the procedure was opened, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Alain Berset, stated that 35 countries are ready to sign the document on reparations for Ukraine. He did not specify which countries exactly. However, it is known that representatives from more than 50 countries arrived in The Hague. Not only from Europe, but also from Latin and North America, Asia, and Australia.
The Council of Europe has no drones, no missiles, but it does have the power of law. International law which applies to everyone. No exceptions, no double standards. And our task is clear. To record the truth, ensure compensation for damages, and hold all those responsible accountable. Justice takes time, but it must be served. And the International Commission on Compensation for Damage caused to Ukraine plays a leading role in this process.
Every Russian war crime must have consequences for those who committed it. Vladimir Zelensky stated this during his speech at the conference in The Hague. The president of Ukraine expressed hope that the Tribunal on Russian aggression will begin its work in the near future, and he emphasized that this is important not only for Ukrainians but for all Europeans. I would add that in 2023, a register of damages for Ukraine was created under the Council of Europe. At this point, Ukrainians have already submitted more than 85,000 claims for compensation for war damages.
Pressure on Russia must be maintained as long as it continues. The occupation of our land? Russia must feel like a criminal and bear responsibility for it as long as our people remain in Russian captivity. And as long as Ukrainian children abducted by Russia are not returned home. Sanctions must restrict Russia's actions until it shows respect for peaceful life and the rights of its neighbors.
Strengthening security guarantees for Ukraine, including the outcomes of recent discussions in Berlin, is a key factor for the future peace process. This is the opinion of Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof. He noted that without restoring justice for the millions of Ukrainians affected by Russian aggression, peace in Europe will remain vulnerable.
Justice does not come by itself. We need to lay the foundation and prepare as thoroughly as possible. And now we are taking the next step. We have established the International Claims Commission for Ukraine, which will handle compensation for the damage caused during the war. Every day, Russia deliberately bombs homes in Ukraine, destroys businesses, and damages infrastructure. And this must not go unpunished.
In The Hague, Volodymyr Zelensky also held a series of bilateral meetings. He visited King Willem Alexander of the Netherlands. The audience took place at Huis ten Bosch Palace. They discussed the continuation of defense assistance to Ukraine, the situation at the front, and the ongoing Russian strikes on peaceful cities. In addition, Zelensky met with the president of Moldova, Maia Sandu. The leaders discussed possible areas of partnership and agreed to maintain further contact. Sandu noted that the convention adopted today in The Hague is of great importance not only for Ukraine but for all of Europe.
The Frontline runs not only through Ukraine. It is everywhere that Europeans count on security, stability, and a normal life and begin to lose them. And this concerns not only Ukraine, but also whether the free and sovereign states of Europe will be able to protect their peoples from evil. Will we Europeans be able to unite in solidarity to defend our way of life, our democracy, and our peace? This is precisely the fundamental reason why the crucial International Convention on the formal establishment of a dedicated International Claims Commission for the sovereign nation of Ukraine, which we have formally and officially signed here today, is so profoundly important and absolutely essential. 15.
Countries will strengthen Ukraine's defense following the meeting in the Ramstein format. A number of states have promised long-term support for Kyiv next year. In particular, Germany will focus on air defense, drones, and artillery ammunition. The United Kingdom will also allocate funds to protect Ukraine's skies. Each of the Baltic countries has pledged at least 0.25% of its GDP to the IT coalition, drones, electronic warfare equipment, and the Pearl Initiative for purchasing American weapons for Ukraine. Norway will provide about $7 billion in total military aid. The armed forces of Ukraine, as well as contributions to support American air defense systems and the Czech initiative to purchase artillery shells. Luxembourg has pledged €100 million in defense support for Ukraine. Ukraine's Minister of Defense Denis Shmyhal thanked the partners for their assistance and also spoke about the current situation on the battlefield. Vitaly Sizov, special correspondent for the Freedom in Europe TV channel, will provide more details about the results of the meeting in the Ramstein format.
This year, the contact group for supporting Ukraine will provide a record amount of assistance, $45 billion. This refers to the so-called Ramstein format created by the United States, which brings together about 50 countries. These countries are providing assistance to Ukraine. Currently, the group is led by Germany and the United Kingdom, and this is already the 32nd meeting in this format. The current session was held online. Ukraine's Minister of Defense, Denis Shmyhal, revealed details of the assistance and outlined Ukraine's needs for the coming year. In 2026,
We see many challenges. Russia plans to spend about $186 billion on its military budget next year. In this regard, our total defense needs for the next year amount to $120 billion. Ukraine can cover half of this amount with its own resources, but the remaining $60 billion must come from our partners. From you, dear friends, we earnestly ask you to consider allocating at least $0.25 billion, that is, 0.5% of your GDP for Ukraine's defense needs. This would be fair and transparent for all of you and sufficient for Ukraine's resilience.
against the backdrop of threats coming from Russia, partners are ready to increase the amount of aid to Kyiv. Germany is one of the main financial and military donors. Next year, they plan to increase their support. Berlin's priority is Ukraine's air defense.
In the coming year, we will further expand our support for Ukraine and provide an additional 3 billion euros. Then our total support will reach 11.5 billion euros, which will be a new record. Increasing our assistance sends a clear signal. Germany supports Ukraine. Since our last meeting within the defense group, we have significantly strengthened Ukraine's air defense by delivering 2 Patriot systems, as promised in August, something we partly owe to our Norwegian partners. And we have also supplied the 9th Iris-T launcher.
The United Kingdom is also ready to support Ukraine's air defense. And not only that, plans are already being made in London. In the event of a truly lasting and enduring peace, the United Kingdom is fully prepared to station its soldiers in Ukraine and actively patrol its airspace.
The United Kingdom is ready to deploy its troops on Ukrainian territory, as well as send aircraft to help maintain peace. As part of the coalition of the willing, we are raising our level of combat readiness, and I continue to allocate funding for the training of our British troops and armed forces so that we are ready to deploy when peace comes.
London is announcing the imminent start of production of new Octopus interceptor drones. Thus, the Allies are sending a signal to Moscow that continuing the war will only strengthen European unity and increase the amount of aid for Ukraine. Vitaly Sizov, Ruslan Kuzgov from Brussels for Freedom TV channel.
Against the backdrop of world leaders' efforts to stop the war, the Russian army continues to shell Ukraine. A woman and 2 children were injured as a result of an attack on the Lozova district of the Kharkiv region. The occupiers struck with a drone reportedly of the Geran-2 type, hitting a private residential house in the village of Chervon. A fire broke out there. Rescuers who arrived at the scene extinguished the fire and provided assistance to the victims. The children are experiencing an acute stress reaction. In Zaporizhzhia, the Russian army struck an apartment building. 4 people were injured. 1 of them is in serious condition. After the explosion, a fire broke out that took about 3 hours to extinguish. How are the consequences of the attack being dealt with? Our correspondents report from the scene.
The Russian army attacked Zaporizhzhia at around 5 in the morning. The residents of the 9-story building were awakened by an explosion when a strike drone crashed into the wall at the level of the 5th floor. A fire broke out. 5 people were trapped in their apartments because of the fire. They were evacuated by rescuers.
It just started, there was a bang, and that was it, and then it all began. After that, a fire truck arrived, just one, and a fire ladder was brought in. Then another fire truck arrived. But it kept burning and burning naturally for quite a long time. Really, they were putting it out for, I can't even say how long it took.
4 people were injured. One of them, a 58-year-old man, is in serious condition. Apartments in 2 entrances from the 5th to the 9th floor were completely or partially burned.
The poor people who suffered. Just imagine, where are these people supposed to go?
Utility workers and volunteers are helping to board up the broken windows with wooden panels. 100 people have reported damage to their apartments. They will be provided with temporary housing. After the attack, many sought psychological help. People are now in a state of uncertainty, not just post-stress. They feel lost. They don't know what they need to do. That's why right now they need to be calmed down and brought back to the here and now. The drone struck the floor slabs and load-bearing walls of the 9-story building. Specialists are now inspecting the building's structures to determine the extent of the damage and to draft a plan for future repairs. Ole Pritikin, Boris Yakovenko from Zaporizhzhia for Freedom TV channel.
Over the past 3 days, power engineers have restored electricity to almost 330,000 families in the Odessa region. This was reported by the regional military administrations. As of today, all critical infrastructure facilities are supplied with electricity. At the same time, another 280,000 subscribers remain without power. Restoration work on the power supply is ongoing around the clock. Rescuers from other regions of Ukraine have arrived in Odessa to assist their colleagues. Special vehicles have been deployed in different districts to provide residents with drinking water. Additional generators have also been delivered from other regions to power the city's boiler houses.
There are 43 points of invincibility operating in the Odessa region. All of them are stationary and located at fire station bases. Here you can charge your gadgets and other electronic devices and have some coffee or tea. There are also equipped children's play areas. In the past few days, almost 2,000 people have visited the points of invincibility run by the State Emergency Service in the Odessa region. The majority of these people are from the city of Odessa itself. The points of invincibility will continue to operate as long as there is a need for them.
There are disruptions in heating and electricity supply in Kherson. Due to Russian shelling, the situation there remains difficult. Several humanitarian support programs are operating in the city. More about their work and the situation on the ground in the following report.
For the 11th day, most of Kherson has been without heat. The thermal power plant suspended its operations after Russian shelling. In addition, after massive attacks on the southern regions, the city remains without electricity.
For residents of buildings without gas supply, local authorities and volunteers have organized the delivery of hot meals.
It's hard. Without electricity, it's very hard. There's no water, no electricity, and again, no heating either. We were promised gas cylinders, stoves with small cylinders, but we have electric stoves. We're really struggling with the electric stoves. If anything happens for us, it's the end of the world. If we don't have them, that's it. We're helpless. We can't cook, can't heat anything up, can't even make tea, nothing. Hot meals, yes, this is already the second or third time we've been left completely without power. And they give us food. We're very grateful for that. And the food is cooked very well. It's delicious.
It's nothing, yes, nothing. This isn't the end yet. We'll keep living. How are you coping at home?
It's cold. Well, as the English say, there's no such thing as bad weather. We're just dressed out of season.
Right now the temperature is 10 degrees. Right now it's 10 degrees. In the apartment, somewhere around 8 to 10 degrees. We keep warm with blankets and warm clothes. It was especially hard when there was no electricity. They turned the power back on for a few hours, I think. That's how we survive little by little. Warm clothes help, and whatever we have at home. We'll get through this, we're holding on. Victory is the most important thing. We're waiting for victory. We already have experience now. In 2022, when we were liberated, we had no electricity or water for a month. We set up a stove outside and cooked food there. And we fed those who were bedridden. We had some elderly women with us. We fed everyone. There were 25 apartments in our building. We cooked for everyone, ourselves, with whatever anyone had. So we have experience. But now, of course, back then at least we had heating. No water or electricity, but it was warm. Now it's terrible. But it's okay, we'll get through this. In
this building, about 70 apartments are occupied. 15 of them are home to displaced people from the most dangerous districts of Kherson, Antonivka, Ostrov and Kindika. People are trying to move to quieter neighborhoods but not leave their hometown. There are 25 points of invincibility operating around the clock in the city. Here you can not only warm up and charge your devices, but also spend the night, take a shower and do your laundry. There are
Supplies of stoves and sleeping bags. There are stocks of cookies, sugar, canned food, tea, and coffee.
Tea, coffee.
Each point of invincibility is equipped with 10 to 15 beds, with additional capacity for 50 more people. While the parents are at work, children can spend time in the playrooms. Here at our center, you can even go play with the toys.
People can work here. There is internet and everything you need. You can make coffee, use a thermopot. There is instant food, a fridge, a microwave, and a charging station just in case.
If an air raid alert is announced in the city, the centers continue to operate. Everyone goes down to the shelter.
There we have folding beds, benches, water, and you can even sleep there.
Up to critical situations.
2. We are prepared for critical situations. This is not the first time. When a blackout happens, we have a supply of fuel and lubricants, drinking water, food, and everything necessary.
To help as many local residents as possible, rescuers have also set up additional heating points. Thus, Kherson continues to live under constant shelling and interruptions in electricity and heating. But people say that although the situation is difficult, it is holding together. Volunteers and local authorities are helping them with this.
60 Ukrainian citizens have been returned to Ukraine from Russian temporarily occupied territories. This is the result of a meeting between the Verkhovna Rada Commissioner for Human Rights, Dmytro Lubinets, with his Russian counterpart Tatyana Moskalkova and the heads of the International Committee of the Red Cross Mission. In addition, 2,000 parcels of humanitarian aid were delivered for Ukrainian prisoners of war, along with letters from their families, as well as lists of severely wounded and ill Ukrainian citizens who are still being held in Russian captivity. Ukrainian defenders destroyed another armored convoy of Russian occupiers who attempted a massive assault in the Pokrovsk direction. The enemy was defeated by the Podolsk paratroopers. The soldiers reported that, under the cover of fog, the Russians tried to attack Ukrainian positions, sending 10 armored vehicles and about 50 infantrymen into the assault. The attack was repelled thanks to the coordinated work of several units of the Ukrainian armed forces. This included both artillerymen and drone operators. Since the beginning of the day, 167 combat engagements have been recorded along the entire front line. According to the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, the Pokrovsk, Lyman, Kupiansk, Alexandrivka and Huliaipole directions remain difficult. For more details on the situation at the front line, see the following report.
A group of Russians tried to gain a foothold near the railway tracks not far from Pokrovsk in order to advance further toward the city. After successful airstrikes by Special Operations Forces drone operators, the Russian infantry was destroyed.
The enemy is trying to break through in the direction of Ramstein, northwest of Pokrovsk. To achieve this, they are attempting to advance along several directions at once. The Ukrainian Defense Forces are countering these attempts by cutting off likely enemy movement routes and striking them with available forces and means, particularly artillery and FPV drones. From reports by the 7th Rapid Response Course of the Air Assault Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Telegram.
On the Pokrovsk section of the front, Ukrainian soldiers repelled nearly a third of all Russian attacks recorded on the front line. Military experts note the successes of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Pokrovsk-Mirnorod agglomeration area.
As of today, the situation is such that in recent days, the defense forces, right now it's frightening. For the Russians, it will sound like this. For the defense forces of Ukraine, they managed to clear another 3 square kilometers of the city of Pokrovsk. Accordingly, the total area is 29 square kilometers and therefore under the control of the defense forces. It went from 13 to 16. So we see that at least 50%, even a little more, of this location is controlled by the defense forces.
In addition, the situation remains difficult but under control in the Lyman, Kupiansk, Alexandrivka and Huliaipole directions. There, since the beginning of the day, Ukrainian soldiers have repelled more than 24 Russian assaults in each direction. Ukrainian soldiers blew up a Russian anti-aircraft missile and gun system called Tunguska in the Kherson region. The operation was carried out by several units of the Ukrainian armed forces. The fighters continue to significantly weaken the enemy's capabilities and cover their own equipment. The soldiers also showed the destruction of a Russian strongpoint in the southern Slobozansky direction. The invaders tried to create a labyrinth of dugouts and command observation posts here. Now all that remains of it is a thermal trace. Ukrainian defenders note that the methodical work on the fortifications of the Russian occupiers continues. My objective.
Our target is the dugout and the extension next to the dugout. We'll try to hit it a bit with a fragmentation shell. Our drone carries a good payload, meaning bombs. Accordingly, the heavier it is, the better it levels their fortifications, if I can put it that way. After 10 kilograms of explosives drop on them, there's no way they'll come out unscathed.
According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, just in the past day, the Defense Forces eliminated 1,150 Russian occupiers. Thus, the total combat losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion have already exceeded 1,190,000 soldiers. In addition, 67 artillery systems were destroyed in a single day, more than 400 drones and nearly 200 vehicles of the enemy. The updated statistics from the General Staff also include another Russian submarine that was struck the day before by SBU naval drones.
Russia remains a threat both today and in the near future. This was stated by Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo at a meeting of NATO's eastern flank countries in Helsinki. The head of the Finnish government called for strengthening Europe's security. Earlier, Orpo had already stated that after a potential peace agreement with Ukraine, Russia could redeploy its troops to the borders of alliance member states. And above all, Finland and the Baltic countries are at risk of being under threat.
The development of European defense will not happen and will not continue if we, as a state on the eastern border of the European Union, do not voice our opinion and do not explain our reality. Finland, together with other countries on NATO's eastern flank, has been actively advocating within the EU for making these issues a priority on the European agenda, and we have succeeded. I am also pleased to announce that Finland is ready to take on the role of lead country together with Poland or other states. I want to emphasize that any EU member state can join.
Moscow has rejected the idea of a Christmas truce between Ukraine and Russia, which was proposed the day before by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. As Putin's press secretary Peskov stated, the Kremlin allegedly seeks to achieve its goals and stop the war, without specifying, however, that it was the Russian Federation that initiated hostilities against Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated that Moscow will not succeed in driving a wedge between Europe and the United States when it comes to security guarantees for Ukraine. According to the Polish politician, Washington is prepared to exert military pressure on Moscow, and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom announced that the countries of the coalition of the willing are ready to deploy their troops in Ukraine. What methods are Kyiv's partners planning to use to stop Russia's aggression? And how can a just and lasting peace be established? Andriy Dmitrenko will tell us more.
The leaders of Europe, the US and Ukraine have agreed on guarantees for Kyiv and a strategy to put pressure on Moscow. Russia is left to accept the terms and agree to a ceasefire according to the statement following the meeting in Berlin. Among the agreed guarantees are military support for Ukraine, maintaining the size of the Ukrainian armed forces at 800,000 soldiers during peacetime under any peace agreement, the formation of European armed forces, a commitment by the United States to monitor the ceasefire, as well as Ukraine's European integration.
The leaders expressed their support for President Zelensky and agreed to provide assistance. Any decisions that the UN ultimately makes regarding specific issues concerning Ukraine, they reaffirm that international borders must not be changed by force. Decisions regarding territory should be made by the people of Ukraine after reliable security guarantees have been effectively ensured. They emphasize that, if necessary, they would support President Zelensky in holding consultations with the people. From the joint statement of the leaders of Ukraine, Europe, and the United States on the website of the German government.
Partners are working on providing Ukraine with guarantees similar to NATO's Article 5, said the president of Ukraine. White House head Donald Trump assured that Putin may accept the terms of a future ceasefire. However, negotiations among Kyiv's partners are still at an early stage. In particular, the issue of territory has not yet been resolved.
To be honest, Ukraine has already lost a lot of territory. But we continue to work on security guarantees together with Europe. Europe will play a major role in this, and we are working on security guarantees to ensure that the war does not start again.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk noted that he would not call the upcoming guarantees an analogue of NATO's Article 5, but they serve the interests of Ukraine and Europe. It is important that the Russian Federation does not emerge as the winner of the war. This task is at the center of the work of the US and Europe, Tusk stated.
For the first time, I heard it directly from American negotiators, and here Mr. Witkov was very clear. America will participate in ensuring Ukraine's security, in such a way that the Russians have no doubt that the US response will be military if the Russians attack Ukraine again. In a sense, this is reminiscent of Article 5, but I wouldn't directly refer to Article 5 because that could only complicate further negotiations. But even this declaration that we heard today was truly far-reaching.
The coalition of the willing is developing military planning to ensure Ukraine's security in the air, at sea, and on land. This was stated by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. An alliance of more than 30 countries is considering forming a contingent to send to Ukraine in the future. I
made it clear that I consider this a necessary response to the situation in Ukraine, but also part of a broader argument. The point is that for far too many years now, almost all European countries have not paid enough attention to issues of defense and security, and we need to step up our efforts not only in terms of spending, but also in terms of capability and coordination. And now leaders must make this argument, because the threat from Russia is very clear and very real.
Right now, the most intense and focused peace negotiations since the start of this war are underway, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on December 16th during his visit to the Netherlands. He added that this is not about a pause, but about a lasting peace.
We are working very carefully on documents that could stop the war and guarantee security. This is very important. Not a single detail should become a reward for Russian aggression. Russia invaded our home. They demand that we give up parts of our land that they couldn't even capture. Russia maintains an almost 1 million strong occupation force on our territory. And at the same time, they demand that Ukraine accept restrictions on our right to join alliances and on our sovereignty. It's not enough to simply force Russia to make a deal. We must make Russia recognize that there is a rule in the world and that it cannot deceive everyone. This is the path to lasting peace.
Security guarantees were discussed with the military, stated Volodymyr Zelensky. According to him, Ukraine is counting on 5 documents as a result of negotiations with the United States regarding a potential agreement to end the war. Some of them, concerning security guarantees, will be legally binding, meaning they will be voted on by the United States Congress. Andriy Dmitrenko, Delta Channel.